Time to review a good old Thanksgiving slasher, Blood Rage. Blood Rage stars Mark Soper and is directed by John Grismer. What's up, guys? I love slashers, but I really love holiday-themed slashers, and it seems like there's one for every single holiday out there. And one that I've been skipping for so long, and maybe it's because of the holiday itself, is Blood Rage. You know, it involves Thanksgiving. And for some reason, Thanksgiving and horror, for me anyway, they don't mix as well. But they mix really well in Blood Rage.
It's not cranberry sauce.
But for me, Thanksgiving goes with like Rocky movies and holiday, you know, like Christmas movies. That's usually what I watch. And really November is like epic movie month for me. I like to watch like big action movies, stuff like that. I'm glad I finally did watch Blood Rage. I watched it on Amazon Prime. And after I watched it, I loved it so much that I ended up buying the Arrow Blu-ray release, which is on its way to my house right now. But I couldn't wait to talk to you guys about this movie, actually. I'm surprised I hadn't seen it before. But first, quick plot synopsis. The very beginning of this movie takes place at a drive-in movie theater. And I think that's freaking awesome because I have a huge thing for drive-in movie theaters. I even did a couple videos on my channel where I visited drive-in movie theaters. I just love them. I don't know what it is. This was the Martin Theater back in, I believe, the 70s in Valdosta, Georgia. And that is all that's left of the Martin drive-in movie theater. So as you can see, the concession stand looks like something out of Friday the 13th Part 2. Okay guys, we are walking in to the concession stand of the Martin Theater. I saw Psycho 3 and The Hills Have Eyes Part 2 in a drive-in movie theater back in '86. My sister was on a date and they snuck me in the theater in the trunk of the car. That was a really good memory of mine. But anyway, beginning of this movie, you got this Mother Maddy and this guy, because I think she's a single mother in this, and they're like making out. But then her twin sons, they escape the back, and they go to this other couple, and then the kid walks up to this guy, and he takes this axe and just like chops the half of his face off.
Good luck. Beat it.
And it's really a great way to open a slasher movie, you know, because I think that first kill can really make or break your slasher movie because it lets the viewer know what type of slasher movie you're going to get yourself into. And luckily, I think in the early 80s, the MPAA wasn't as harsh. I think Friday the 13th really caused the MPAA to tighten their belts on what you could get away with in R-rated horror. This was actually filmed in '83. And eventually it was released in '87. But that first kill is like slasher gold. Unfortunately, the wrong twin gets put in an institution. And so 10 years later, he escapes the institution. And the real killer has been living with his mother all along. You know, and she's got like this boyfriend 10 years later. And we'll get into that. There's a kill that involves him as well. But we'll get into that. But really, this movie is Terry. I forgot to give you the twins' names, but it's Terry and Todd. Todd is the kid who went to the institution. Terry is actually the real killer. And this is not a whodunit. I like that about this. You know all along that Terry is the killer. They don't really hold that back. But what's interesting is the characters in the movie don't know that Terry is the killer. And so I think that's interesting when you think somebody who you feel safe with, that person ends up being the killer. I always find that interesting. But Terry, it's kind of like Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. He kind of reminds me of that because he's a playboy, good-looking guy, and very confident. You know, and this is like the Ted Bundy thing. You know, Ted Bundy was this good-looking, confident guy, and nobody would think that he was a serial killer. And that's what Terry was in this movie. And the whole time, everybody's thinking that Todd is the killer, and even more so because he just escaped the institution. So that's kind of what this movie centers around, is everybody freaking out because they don't know where Todd is and they're thinking Todd's the killer. But meanwhile, Terry, who's sitting there right next to him, is actually the killer. Love that about this. And let me just say, Mark Soper, who played Terry, was fantastic as the killer in this. First of all, it's just refreshing. It's refreshing to have a killer that's not masked, that's right there out in the open. And it's nice to have a movie that's not a whodunit, because most slasher movies are whodunits. It's kind of like what Jason Voorhees is and what Michael Myers is. You know, even though they have masks, you still know who the killer is. But this is a killer too, kind of like Freddy Krueger, that, you know, he can talk. He's got some funny lines. Everybody remembers the line that's seen this movie anyway, "That's not cranberry sauce." That is gold. And he says that a few times in the movie actually too.
That isn't cranberry sauce, Artie. That is not cranberry sauce.
But then, you know, there's some scenes where he'll just show up, the person opens the door and he just goes, "Hi," and then he goes and kills him. It's great. Also, Todd is he's a really good guy. He's a caring character in this movie, but he's got a screw loose because he's been in an institution for all this time. But there's this one scene where he comes up to this little girl and he tells her to, you know, to go to safety. So that really lets you know that he's, you know, he's not a bad guy at all. But he's really paranoid. And Mark Soper is a big reason why I love this movie so much. He really carries the movie on his shoulders throughout, and he plays two parts. He plays the killer, Terry, and he plays Todd. And these are two very different people. Now, also the Mother Maddy, played by Louise Lasser. I like horror films that involve mothers and sons, especially if the sons are killers, like Psycho. You're going to get those Psycho vibes from this. And she really kind of loses her mind throughout this because her son, Todd, has escaped, and she thinks her son, Todd, is the killer.
This is a real emergency. This is a real emergency. I mean, he is definitely there. He is waiting for my call right now. He is sitting there and waiting for my call.
And it's great because that final act was pretty chilling, actually. You know, you're at that pool, and then she walks out, and I think this scene is filmed beautifully, by the way. And she sees who she thinks is Todd, but it's actually Terry, the real killer. And then she kills him. And as that scene's playing out, you know, you think that she thinks she's killing Terry, but she thought she was actually killing Todd, which I thought was genius, because then her reaction after she finds out that she didn't kill Todd, that she killed Terry, was perfect. Now, also, I touched on it before, the kills in this movie, I think, are a big part of what makes it so great. They're inventive. You have some that are right up there in front of you. You have some that are implied and off screen. But all the kills work so well. And Terry has a great weapon. You know, like Jason, he's got this machete, but I love how bloody the machete is throughout the whole movie. There's so much variety in the kills that you never know what's going to happen. You know, sometimes he'll just slice a person across the face. Very beginning of the movie, you know, you got the nice axe kill. And then you got that one kill where the character opens the door and you see the head hanging there. Oh, and also there's a funny kill with the psychiatrist where Terry cuts her in half and her body's like split apart. And then Todd comes later and like grabs the bottom half of her body and like puts it back together. And it just looks so silly and fake, but it was funny as hell. And also, if you like nudity in your horror movies, then look no further than this too, because there's plenty of it. Now, as far as any cons, Karen is the final girl in this movie. I think she's serviceable, but you know, nothing special or anything. There's one scene with Karen when she runs up to the door and then she's trying to get in, and then the little girl on the other side says, "You just want to hurt my kitty," which was hilarious.
Please! There's somebody after me and he's chasing me and he's trying to hurt me! You're gonna hurt my kitty! Oh, God!
And as far as like acting goes, you're gonna get the bad acting that you get in a lot of these cheesy 80s slashers. I don't have a problem with that though. I kind of prefer it sometimes. So it works for me. But Blood Rage is a blast of a time. I'm definitely giving it a high purchase worthy. And definitely get the Arrow release if you get a chance. I'll put an Amazon affiliate link below so you can get it. Because I got it for like $17.99. And Arrow puts out phenomenal horror releases, actually. And they're so addictive. When I went to Spooky Empire, they had quite a few vendors that had Arrow releases, and that place almost broke me. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on Blood Rage? Let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, we do Free for All Fridays. I might start doing like a slasher day on Killer Flicks. That could be a lot of fun, actually. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.